This is Cumberland Island, one of the largest remaining undeveloped barrier islands of the East Coast, a fragile, rare, protected ecosystem. And these are Cumberland's feral horses. What's not so wild about these idyllic images is the uncomfortable truth they hide.
The horses aren't good for the island, and the island isn't good for the horses.
Horses roaming freely along the beach may seem romantic and beautiful, but in reality, these animals are struggling to survive and causing destruction. There's much more to understand. This herd of approximately 150 horses are not native to the island. They were once domesticated but have reverted to a feral state. These are not wild mustangs, and they don't have hundreds of miles of open grasslands to roam. Their ancestors come from a variety of breeds, all introduced by wealthy landowners. When property changed hands, the horses remained, left to survive on their own. Cumberland Island became a national seashore in 1972 and a national wilderness in 1982. Even with these changes, the neglect continues, and crucial island ecosystems are being destroyed. Geography plays a huge part. Horses aren't designed for life on an island with woodland or salt marshes. Cumberland Island has few patches of open grassland and even fewer sources of fresh water. This leads to malnourishment as the horses can't avoid ingesting sand and saltwater or brackish water from the marsh. Open grazing areas are limited, forcing many horses to seek food in the marsh grasses, where they risk sinking deep in the mud and drowning in the incoming tide. The unavoidable ingestion of sand and salt causes intestinal blockages and abdominal distension. They're prone to equine diseases, parasites, drought-related stress, and natural accidents. If you look closely, you could see missing hair, flaky skin, tick and snake bites, worn teeth, and sores. Their skin is frequently stretched taut over protruding shoulder, rib, or hip bones. Like humans, when a horse doesn't get proper nutrition, its own body will begin to devour itself. The mares of the herd suffer the most distress because they cannot provide enough nutrients for their foals. Life becomes a daily struggle. More than half of all newborns don't survive the first year. Remember, there is no veterinary care for these animals. Domestic horses live 25 to 30 years. On average, Cumberland horses live less than 9. Malnourished horses can also be a danger to visitors. They can develop aggression towards humans or hypersensitivity to motion. Injuries have been reported. Kicks, bites, people being knocked down. Visitors are urged to keep at least 50 feet away for safety. Feral horses continually shape new paths across the island, grazing and trampling in search of new food sources. It's estimated that the herds eat more than 200 tons of vegetation each year and can remove up to 98% of it in areas they frequent. Cumberland's natural resources are limited. Environmentally fragile ecosystems are being taken over and destroyed. Native species struggle to compete for habitat and food, including plants and animals that are federally threatened, endangered, or protected. Horse movement on the island also destabilizes dunes and streambanks, removes native grasses and forbs, creates erosion, and forms mud pits. This puts the stability of the nesting sea turtle and shorebird habitats at high risk. Then there are the ever-present mounds of horse droppings everywhere. They're unavoidable. This damages the very limited freshwater supply and creates unnecessary health risks. The horses inflict serious harm to other animal species. There is documented damage to loggerhead sea turtle nests caused by horses roaming over the beach and into dune nesting sites. The nests of protected species of birds, like the piping plover and oyster catchers, are also at risk from trampling. The National Park Service considers Cumberland's horses feral, free-ranging, and unmanaged livestock. The Wilderness Act of 1964 requires that all managing agencies maintain wilderness character to promote a naturally functioning ecosystem. There has never been a management plan for the island's horses or its nearly 20,000 acres of wilderness. This isn't fair to the horses, the island, or the taxpayers who fund the park system. Ignoring the plight of these horses and their effects is cruel and unconscionable. That's why, in April of 2023, Cumberland's horses, naturalists, and other equine groups filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia and the National Park Service. It states that the Park Service and the state of Georgia has permitted the horses to inflict serious harm to the island's natural and wilderness resources. Their neglect of duty has resulted in a horse population that is ill, malnourished, and deprived of a normal life expectancy. Multiple motions to dismiss the suit and lengthy time extensions have been granted, leaving ecosystems in peril and horses suffering. This is our government wasting money by preventing action and avoiding responsibility for protection or preservation. The next steps center around the question: horse management problems are an issue across our country, but in many locations, animals on public lands are being managed using fertility control and, in some cases, removal and adoption. Doing nothing is not an action plan. The horses are neglected, continue to suffer, and struggle to survive, and the island continues to degrade, all for misguided romantic vision. It is part of the National Park Service's mission to preserve natural resources for future generations. A horse or wilderness management strategy is key. Cumberland Island's fragile ecosystem needs to be prioritized if the horses remain on the island. A strict program that assures that all biologically sensitive areas are protected and the horses are cared for. A plan, any plan, is crucial for Cumberland's future. Take action now. Visit wildcumberland.org and join us in demanding that the National Park Service develop a wilderness management plan that also addresses the feral horse population. Encourage everyone to do the same. For more about Wild Cumberland, visit wildcumberland.org. We are a 501c3 completely volunteer organization and are solely funded by individual donations.